Right. Welcome everyone to our Black Community Report podcast. And we are excited. This is Leon Benjamin, and I am so excited to have a very special guest and friend with me today. We're going to talk about the money follows the child and maybe some other issues. I know that this is very important to her. And she has a group, and I don't want to get the name wrong, but I think it's like Mom Paquettes. It's something
Yeah.
like that. But she's going to explain that to me. But I have Candace Lucas with me, and we're going to do a little deep dive for a few minutes on our podcast. And those that might be seeing us live on Facebook as well and YouTube, some of our other media channels as well. Cloud Hub and Rumble, and locals also, and we're starting a new channel also on Patreon. The whole deal, Candace. How are you doing right now? How are you doing right now?
I'm doing well. Thank you for the opportunity to share with your viewers what's important regarding our kids. So I appreciate that.
Well, Well, look, tell me something. What is it that gets you the most? Because I know you have a mission and a ministry for helping parents and their children. And can you just kind of talk to us and explain what does it mean? Because I'm running for Congress, and you know that one of my things is that if we don't help our children, we are just done. We're just done. If we don't help our parents, what do you do and what are you involved in right now?
Okay, well, basically at this point, well, I've been doing it for almost 2 decades, but we advocate on behalf of families of students with disabilities and students of color in order for education, access, and equity to be realized. And the primary role that I play is educating the parents and the students, as well as the school divisions, on what their rights are and what their responsibilities are. We understand that the individuals with education, the IDEA, the Individuals with Disabilities Educational Act, is a civil rights law. It's a civil rights law. And we also understand that this civil rights law is being violated as a standard operating procedure in a lot of school divisions, because because of one basic issue: parents' rights are not being respected, students' rights are not being respected. And so our goal is to educate families, educate communities, to make sure that this civil rights law is upheld and the procedural safeguards for the families are upheld.
Yeah, and tell me something, because when institutions, when schools and institutions start to leave the parents with no other options, that's a lot of stress, isn't it? When the parents feel like their children are not really being taught, they're not really being safe, they're not being educated. Isn't that a lot of stress on the
Well,
parents?
it actually is trauma. Actually, it's a form of trauma, because considering the fact that we believe that education is a human right, we believe that education is liberation. And because of the circumstances that exist right now in public education, um, schools are not being ran by educators and parents who should be the primary partners in working in our schools. Schools are being ran by administrators and attorneys. Okay, so their priorities are different, and
Mhm.
instead of things like you say, the money following the child, the money is basically following the institution, which is not the way that it's intended to be. I often tell individuals, public education is not underfunded. Public education is fully funded, is improperly allocated. The monies are improperly allocated. When we can have a superintendent making the salary of the president of the United States, and then a teacher is working two and three jobs to make ends meet, and then a student cannot receive the appropriate related services, whether it's speech therapy, occupational therapy, music therapy, if they can't receive that because of quote unquote budgetary issues, and educators have to work two and three jobs because of quote unquote budgetary issues, but we have all of the money misallocated to the central office staff or administration, that's a problem. And so, what we're trying to do, and I'm not speaking from what I don't know. You know, I know the
Yes.
finances of public education like the back of my
Yeah.
hand. I'm a licensed educator and administrator as well in the Commonwealth of Virginia. I've taught for 15 years. I train special educators and administrators. I presented nationally, for school board attorney, school board, sorry, school advocates and attorneys, and so I know the dynamics in the landscape of what's going on. And what we really need, and I appreciate your interest in this because, Bishop, the bottom line is that we need a complete revamping of public education so that parents have a choice and parents are in the driver's seat
Yeah.
regarding how their children are educated.
Well, I tell you, one of the things that I know is very important is that once a parent knows that they're being supported, it's like a weight lifted off of their shoulders when they know they have this type of advocacy that
Mhm.
is surrounding them. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because I know that the schools are failing the kids. The kids are not learning how to read. They're not learning how to write. They're not learning how to do basic skills. They're just not being prepared anymore to go out into society and be productive. They're literally kids are literally sitting in classrooms and they're not learning anything, and they're
Well,
still getting passed. I mean, is where's the support?
and you know what, the issue, and I think the governor in Virginia, Governor Youngkin, with his report that he issued about a month ago, a month and a half ago, where he stated that Virginia schools are failing parents. And there's what he coined, as well as pointed out, a website called the Honesty Gap, where the Honesty Gap states that school divisions are saying that our kids are here. In reality, they're here. Okay, so we're no longer teaching our kids to read. We're no longer teaching our children to write. I have children that I support at the high school level that have never written a paragraph. And that's like impossible for me to understand as an educator how we can put children through 12 years of education,
Right,
and they not be prepared for the world. And the failure, our failure, is not the children's failure, it's our failure, because there are some students who learn differently. There are some students who have no desire to go to college, and
right,
we are not changing the educational system to fit the children. We're at telling the children, you have to fit into this educational system that we create.
right. So what happens when this support starts to come around? What does it look like? Because when the money follows the child, and you go in, I know I've seen some of the things that you do. You actually go in and parents say, "Look, my child's not being taught, or is some things going on with the I think it's called an IEP. If I'm
Yes.
getting
Yeah.
that correct." You actually go in and advocate to make sure that proper things are in place. And if the parent doesn't have the resources, they kind of feel kind of helpless, don't they? And they just kind of give up.
Well, actually, and actually, it comes down because the institution is so used to protecting itself, public education. And we make no mistake about it, it is an institution that does not have the best interests of our children at stake as a whole. I'm not saying individuals do not, but as a whole, it is not it does not act in the best interest of our children. So a lot of times, as long as parents go along to get along, there's no problem. And but the minute a parent starts asserting their rights and saying that my child needs this or my child needs that, then they are considered a threat by the school division. Or the minute a parent understands their rights and starts asserting their rights, like wanting to review their child's record. We have situations where parents have asked to review their child's records, and the school division has charged them $3,000 just to look at their own child's records, just to have a copy of it.
Wow.
So, and it's almost like when we as people of color went to go vote, and they put that poll tax in place to stop us from voting. So we have all these obstacles that are coming, that are being presented to parents in order to stop them from exercising their rights. What I do is I go in and we try to work with the school divisions and try to educate them. Any meeting that I go to with the school division, I share that I'm here as an advocate to educate the school division to protect the rights of the parent. Those are my primary goals. And if we're not able to work it out, then we engage in what we call an administrative due process hearing, where we have like an informal hearing. But unfortunately, what we're finding is that school divisions are hiring these big law firms to come in who benefit from the conflict between parents and school divisions. In fact, they profit greatly from it, as much as $1,100 an hour of our tax money in some cases. And they do that to generate profit for their bottom line. As long as parents and school division and educators are not getting along, they profit from that. So our goal is to go in and dismantle the manufacturer conflict and build truly collaborative partnerships where it's equal, not the school division telling the parent, this is how we're going to educate your child, take it or leave it. We're really promoting a collaborative environment where parents have choices. If the school that your child is at is failing your child, this is supposed to be a capitalistic society. Let's move our child, give our parent other options, and let the money follow the child. The public school system is not going to freely give us that money, unfortunately, even though it's our money. It's our taxpaying money. And I hear
Right.
people say, well, the public school system, you're taking money from public education when you place children, when you say children need to go here or children need to go there. Well, public education is not an entity, a child is. A child is. So when we say that the money needs to follow the child, we're not taking money away from public education. We're giving money to children. And that's what we need to look at. It's not defunding public education, it's funding children, because public education cannot exist without students.
Well, that's the whole thing. Why do some legislators fear the money going to the child? Do you have any explanation or any reason
Absolutely.
why legislators should fear the money going to the child?
I don't think it's so much so legislators. I believe that there's a lack of understanding regarding how public education works as far as financing is concerned. Um, I look at in Virginia that the Joint Commission, the JLARC report indicated, which was done in December 2020, indicated that the Virginia Department of Education does not need any more funding. What needs to happen is they need to go ahead and utilize the funding that they have appropriately. That's what needs to happen. And so if it's almost like throwing money at someone who has an addiction and expecting them to pay the rent. It's not going to work. It doesn't work. We have to really be accountable for the money itself. So when legislators say, "Oh, if we let parents have this money, then it's going to impact public education." Yes, it is. It's going to impact the fact that we're holding you accountable. I look at it this way: I live in Henrico County. My child goes to Henrico County Public Schools. So
Hmm.
if I ask Henrico County Public Schools, you've allocated this amount of money to my child, how was it spent? And they tell me we don't know. That's a problem. That's a
Wow.
problem, because every parent should be able to go to their school division and say, okay, how much was allocated toward my child, and how was it spent? Because that's accountability. That's accountability. But the school divisions as an entity do not want to be held accountable. And that's what's most problematic.
Well, I think, and I'm feeling that I'm thinking that if children had more options, it would raise up the competition in schools, which would cause schools to get better, because now they're thinking, okay, if this school is now increasing the learning rate, the protection and safety, the public safety, and all of that of their child, that would cause another school to do the same thing. Am I correct?
Well, you would think that would occur, but what we're finding, specifically as it pertains to students with disabilities and students of color, the funding is not going to the schools. It's not going to the schools. For instance, there were millions and millions of dollars in COVID monies sent to school divisions in Virginia, and that those monies were supposed to support what occurred regarding learning loss during COVID. But what it did is that we have received information that these monies are being held so they can be redirected to the general funds. They're being held so the kids are not receiving tutoring to support them. They're not receiving the evidence-based direct implicit instruction for reading. And these are things that our kids require. If a child is not reading on grade level by third grade, and we say you learn to read from pre-K to third grade, then from third grade on you read to learn. Okay, so if you by third grade you're not reading, the information is very clear. It's very clear that you're headed to the school to prison pipeline, the preschool to prison pipeline. And so when we have kids that are in third grade and cannot read on grade level, we should be throwing every resource at them to help them get to where they need to be. And that's also going to help with the social emotional health of our kids because they'll feel more confident, as well as the behavior issues. If children are confident and know how to read and write, that can minimize behavior issues as well.
Yeah, look, I just saw a comment. This because we got some people that are watching. They're really
Mhm.
loving this, Candace. But Hadley said, since the schools can pay big lawyers, then that says they have access to too much money.
Absolutely.
So
Well,
they
the thing
so
is that it's not a matter of them having access, it's a matter of accountability. And
yeah.
what we're doing is that we're using the Freedom of Information Act requests, your right as a citizen to obtain these records because, this is
Now
all
hold up.
being
You said
done.
freedom. Is that what they call a FOIA? A
Yes,
FOIA?
yes,
Okay,
yes.
Freedom of
And
Information Act. So who has access? Who can actually do a FOIA or Freedom of
anyone,
Information Act?
anyone, anyone,
Really?
anyone can in email your school division, put in the subject line FOIA and request all the invoices they've received, they've
Hold
paid
up,
out
parents.
regarding.
Parents, did y'all hear that? Parents, you can actually put in a Freedom of Information Act and ask for all of the bills, the budget. What else can they ask for?
Well, actually, a lot of several school divisions have a lot of that information online through if they're trying to be transparent. But if you want detailed bills, you can request any public record. Any public record. I have used FOIA requests to obtain information regarding curriculums, regarding emails that are exchanged between staff members and the school board, because the thing is that we are the boss. And I think we forget that as taxpayers, we are the ones who are responsible for being stewards over the monies that we give school divisions. And
Right.
school divisions, and that's why I think it's so important that we strengthen the IDEA on the federal level because school divisions need to be held accountable. I believe that every year a school division should have to provide what I call explanation of educational benefits. You know how your insurance company gives you an explanation of benefits where they
Right.
say this is what we spent money on for you. Every year, a school divisions as a point of accountability should be required to provide parents with an explanation of educational benefits. What have you done with this taxpayers' money? What have you done? If you allocated $12,000 a year per student, how have you spent that $12,000? Because it's not making it to
Wow.
our kids. It's not making it to our kids. And
Where
but
where's the money, Candace? Have you found out through your research where
Mhm.
is the money going? Do you have any idea?
Well, it's almost like a rabbit hole, but we've looked at, and I encourage parents, look at your school divisions, go online and look at their budget allocations. They may allocate monies for certain things, but you need to look and see if they're transferring those funds to other parts of the budget. And that's something you can do by just simply looking at the school board minutes. If the superintendent is asking, I want to transfer this money, I want to transfer that money, that's a problem. Because if you allocated the money for a certain purpose, then that's what the money should be used for. Not only that, we request copies of any invoices that have gone to specific individuals because any individual that's signing off for attorneys to be paid $1,100 an hour, $30,000 a week to stop our kids from having access to education. We need them gone from the system. That's not an advocate for our kids. That $30,000 needs to go to the children.
Wow. You know, I am really, as a parent, my kids have gone through the public school systems, and I'm a product of Richmond Public Schools as well. And we just didn't see it coming. It's like a slow creep that to finally realize that kids are being passed and not really being taught anything. They can't even balance a checkbook. They can't even read. They don't have what we call soft skills, like yes, ma'am, yes, sir.
Well,
how thank you.
the big issue is that the public education system makes this commitment to uh, release our kids from public education at 12th grade, career ready, college ready, military ready, and that's not happening. That's not happening. And that once again, that's highly problematic because basically it's creating a permanent underclass, and it's also creating a burden on society with our future. There is absolutely no reason that if a child cannot learn in public school, they shouldn't be able to stay at home and learn. They shouldn't be able to. The money needs to follow them to go to a program and learn, or just offering different programs. I know we need to bring back trade schools, trades as a common occurrence or common training in our schools because there are kids who are going to be great HVAC individuals, great
Yeah.
plumbers, great electricians, and those are positions that empower our kids and allow them to use their hands, and you can support a family on those salaries. So those are the things that we really need to be focusing on regarding our kids. And in order to do that, you have to learn how to read and write.
Well, I'm excited because I know that one of the things that I ran on in 2020 and I'm running again on 2022 is the money follows the child, but also parental rights. I
Yes.
love the fact that you call them momvacats, right? Is that what that is?
And
I want to give
advocates.
a
We
shout
don't
out.
discriminate.
I want to give a shout out to the momvacats, dadvocates. What are they? Is this a big army that has been growing and growing? Talk
Absolutely.
about that in these last few segments about the momvacats and the dadvocates and what that's all about.
Well, like I stated before, a lot of times when school divisions see that parents are questioning or asserting their rights, they engage in what we call the retaliation triangle, where they try to shut down the parent. Our job is to wrap our parents and support them because it is a David and Goliath battle. It is a David and Goliath battle. So we've created a network of what we call momvacats and dadvocates. And I want to give a shout out to Senator Donovan for recognizing our advocacy on the Senate floor of the Virginia General Assembly. But these are moms who have gone through the retaliation triangle, are continuing to fight for the educational equity and access of their children. And so they're in a better position than me to help other mothers and to help other fathers. And so my job is to multiply and help them multiply each other so they can provide wraparound services. For instance, if there's an IEP meeting and a parent is really concerned about, having the support they need, our momvacate, we send out the alert, and our momvacates and advocates will get on a conference call, they get on a Zoom call, and they'll support each other. The school divisions have their team. We need to have our support so that we really are leveling the playing field and making sure that the child's needs are met and the parents' rights are protected.
Yeah, look, as we're going now, this segment, if anybody has comments out there, we got some people that are watching. Put your comments down and we'll try to read your comments because this is just I think this is never going to go away. We're going to have to deal with this until Jesus comes back. We're going to have to make sure our children are educated. How can they again, if they're having a problem with maybe a special needs, an IEP, or maybe they're finding that children are being abused in the classroom and things, how can they get a hold of you, or what do you suggest they do? But first and foremost, give us your information though. How can they get a hold of you if they need to reach
Well,
out to you?
well, you can go to our Facebook page that we support, Advocates for Justice. Advocates for Justice is our Facebook page. And I always share with individuals that the first thing you want to do is make sure that you work with the school division to see if you can resolve the issue. And, the Bible says you go to the person first and you try to
Right,
resolve the
right.
conflict first. If you can't do it by on your own, then you're supposed to bring more people with you and go back and try to resolve it again.
Yeah,
Okay, then at that point, and I'm not talking about taking years to resolve stuff. I'm talking like bam, bam, bam. If you try to resolve it one week and it doesn't work, the next week you get your group together and y'all try to resolve it again. That doesn't work. Then you come contact us and we will work with you to make sure that we go through the dispute resolution process and assist you regarding that. Because one of the protections of the IDEA for families with or children with disabilities is that if there's a dispute between the school division and yourself, you have the right to have an independent hearing officer address that issue. Unfortunately, in Virginia, they're not so independent because once again, money drives them. So they can make if they can make $60,000 uh, hearing a case, and have 7 or 8 cases a year, that's a lot of money. And the school divisions are using our money to pay the hearing officers. So we're also addressing the corruption and the partiality in that system as we go through the process. But yeah, educate yourself on what your rights are. And we do that on a regular basis, and we help our parents assert their rights. We also work with educators. We've seen a mass exodus of educators from the public school system because
is
they are
there a
not
shortage of
supported.
teachers? Is there a shortage of teachers? By the way, I'm
Absolutely.
hearing that the teachers
Absolutely.
in our area, there's a big shortage that they're trying to get teachers, and teachers are leaving the system. Why do you think that's happening? Why are teachers actually leaving something that they actually love to do?
Well, my thing is that educators, and I haven't been an educator, especially a special educator, they're not being supported. They're not being supported. It's one thing and this is what I hear from my colleagues, you're having to balance what the administrators are telling you and, you know, not being able to meet our students' needs is problematic, especially when, as an educator, you're supposed to be the primary advocate outside of the parent or the child. Educators are not allowed to educate anymore. They're not allowed to be the professionals. They're not allowed to use their expertise because everything is being overshadowed by what we call legalese and legal mentalities and money. It's all about money. I had a educator share with me that they were told when they're developing individualized educational plans for kids that you think in terms of how can I make this legally defensible. And I'm like, no, we think in terms of how can we meet the child's needs, and then it will be legally
Wow.
defensible. I'm not thinking of, can I make this IEP legally defensible? No. Can we make this IEP to meet the child's needs? And so there's a shift going on. And I think educators are protesting the fact that they're not being treated as professionals.
Right. We got about 2 more minutes, Candace, and I want you to kind of help people. Some people just got on. If anybody has any comments, definitely I will put the comments up. I Hadley said this: the misery the teachers endure deflates their heart and passion, is why they are leaving. He's saying that the teachers
Absolutely.
are just miserable and they would rather just leave something they love and go to something they don't just to make some money, to
Mhm.
get their bills done. As because teachers are underpaid. Am I right?
Absolutely. And that is unacceptable. That is so the in China, they refer to educators as nation builders.
Wow.
They refer to educators as nation builders. That is so powerful. And one thing about our country is that we do not value educators as nation builders. We do not value educators for their expertise. We're licensed in our field. I've sat in meetings where I've seen attorneys completely discount what educators say, and they're not licensed to practice education. We are. We are licensed to practice education. And so when we see educators having to give up their power and their expertise, it takes a toll on them. It takes a toll. And that's why I believe we're seeing the mass exodus. And I hope is that this mass exodus of educators will be a wake-up call, to everyone that educators have options. We have choices. And because of that, we can choose to do other things, but our kids suffer. But
Yeah.
there comes a point where, educators, they have to act in their own best interest to preserve themselves, because the system will beat them down if they're trying to do the right thing. It's not conducive to what we as licensed educators are trained to do, which is educate children.
I saw another comment. There is no separation of church and state. The state needs Jesus, and so do the schools.
And you know what? I'll
What do
say
you
this.
say about that, Candace?
I actually agree that the whole concept of separation of church and state is really like saying, I'm going to separate my human self from my spiritual self. I can't do that. Okay, you can't do that. And in our schools, the reason we're having so many emotional issues, behavior issues for adults and children, okay, because you look at what's going on, we do not have a firm foundation of who we are as individuals. We do not have any type of firm foundation as to how we should navigate and our purpose. And because of that, it's chaos. It's chaos a lot of times. And
Yeah.
so I don't believe, I understand that's a constitutional concept, but it's not a reality.
Yeah, and it's not even in the Constitution, to be
Hmm.
honest with you. It was a letter written by Jefferson that was
Hmm.
totally in another total context, and someone just
Exactly.
ran with it to mean that it applies to our everyday rights. And our rights don't come from government. Our rights come from God.
Yeah.
And it's just
And
amazing.
it's our obligation. We are required to protect those rights.
That's why I love when you say education is a right. You don't want to teach my child there's something wrong with you.
Mhm.
You want to hide the ability for my child to climb the ladder of success, so to speak, to have and to achieve the American dream. And people are putting obstacles in the way. Speech therapy services, tutoring, mentoring, reading, after school reading services and things like that. I mean, why would someone want to hide those things from the parent and the child?
Well, once again, it's about money. And the thing is that school divisions, a lot of the administrations, and we call it the big law, the big ed collaborative. And it's a conspiracy, basically. A lot of people don't like to use that word, but big law, corporate law, and corporate education, they profit from not educating our kids because they can funnel the monies other
Slow down right
places.
there. So you mean there's profit in making sure a child comes out of school not learning anything? There's profit in that?
Absolutely, absolutely, because that's like
Wow.
that. And I guess let me equate it to this way. If you, let me equate it, make the analogy this way: you have two parents, and you have one that's a deadbeat parent. Okay, but the money is with the deadbeat parent. Parents are saying nowadays, we no longer want to be married to the school divisions. We want a divorce and we want our child support to educate our children in the way that we see fit. Because the schools, and in all fairness, teachers are not being equipped with what they need either. There should be two teachers in every classroom at minimum. If you can pay a superintendent $500,000 and
Woo.
not have two teachers in each classroom. You know what I mean? So we're two licensed educators. We can change the model. Finland's doing it. All these other countries are way above us. and we still will not change our course. So, Bishop, I'm very happy. I'm very honored that you're running for Congress. I believe that you're going to make the changes that need. You're going to be a catalyst to make the changes that need to be made on a federal level. Right now, Virginia is being ignored by our representatives, our federal representatives in Congress, Congressman McEachin, Congressman Senator Kane, Senator Warner, Senator Abigail Spanberger, none of them, Congresswoman Abigail Spanberger, none of them are paying attention to the fact that the state of education in Virginia is a crisis. They're not paying attention because they're too busy dealing with other non-controversial issues, So, and I tell people all the time, you're focused on Roe v. Wade. What about the kids that are here? Can we get you to focus on the kids that are here? Can we get people to listen and see,
Mm.
look at the quality of life for the kids that are here? And so that's where I go.
Well, I want to thank you so much. And I'm going to bring you back on the podcast. We're gonna do some more follow-ups, and I want to actually have a live kind of like a big gathering of the momadvocates and dadvocates. I think I really am excited about seeing how we can put policy along with family. Policy should not fight the family. Policy should undergird the family, and then we add faith to that. So policy, family, and faith means that not only do I get what I need, I actually feel good about it to want to go out and do it for somebody else, because faith without works is dead. And so I'm excited to see that. How can they get a hold of you again? Let them know where you're located and how they can, if they want to reach out to you, got any questions about advocacy services and what they might need, because we're going to go into another school year. And I think your phone is going to be ringing off the hook. So how can they get a hold of you?
Actually, we once again, we have a website called Advocates for Justice. We were called Advocates for Equity in Schools, but we find that the injustice of not being educated is across color lines, across religious lines, and it's across settings. So we're not just in schools anymore; we're everywhere. So if you go to our Facebook page, Advocates for Justice, you can see information there.
Okay, and I want to put this in the crawler because I want to make sure that people actually see this website and that they can understand what they need to do in order to get this. So it's www.
No, it's a Facebook page. It's called Advocates for Justice.
Okay.
Advocates for Justice. Yes.
Facebook. They can find you at Advocates
for Justice.
Oh, Advocates for Justice.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And I'll go ahead and put it in the link below.
Yeah, because I want to make sure that they get there and understand that if we don't start really paying attention, this pipeline that you called it, I think you said it's these
preschool to prison pipeline. Yes,
preschool to prison pipeline. That is terrible. That is really terrible. Mm-hmm. That schools are actually building kids up to go to prison, mm-hmm. as opposed to building them up to be productive mm-hmm. in society. That is just so shameful. Mm-hmm. That any educational institution is actually preparing our children to go to jail. Mm-hmm. And so we need to.
And we have to realize this is intentional. And so we have to be intentional.
Yeah. Well, Candace, I want to thank you so much. Advocates for Justice. Go find her on Facebook page. Reach out to her if you got any questions. And we're going to be coming back again on Black Community Report. We're going to be talking about the money follows a child. We're going to be talking about inflation, high gas prices. We're going to deal with this stuff. We're going to talk about, the home ownership and why the home's going so astronomically high. People can't even afford a home. We're going to talk more about these things, and we're going to bring Candace, our wonderful expert, back to share in some of these ideas and how we can make things better. So look, God bless you all. We love you. Thanks for joining our podcast show, Black Community Report. Love you, Candace. God bless you.
All right, thanks.